Welcome to the Future of Clean, where each week we talk with experts about how to go clean today so every brand can go clean in the future. Today, we celebrate the unsung clean beauty heroes, supply chains. According to CDP's 2019 Global Supply Chain Report, just 57% of suppliers reported emissions reductions activities. So today, we examine how small, day-to-day projects can make major impacts and present lessons learned that global suppliers and the brands that work with them can learn from. I'm joined by Surjit Gill, Senior Director of Supply Chain, and Wendy Goldsby, Senior Director of Environmental Health and Safety at Amyris. Gill was a member of the Clorox internal strategy team that reduced waste across brands and now manages Amyris' global ingredient supply chains. Goldsby heads Amyris' product safety and sustainability initiatives and leads Amyris' Green Group, which won the My Green Lab competition earlier this year. Serge and Wendy, so great to talk to you all today.
Nice to be here.
Nice to be here, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer an opportunity to say, if you were speaking to, let's say, a brand manager or someone who is looking to make their supply chain more sustainable, more safe, what are some of the kind of concepts that you think are most important for them to start with?
Communication, I think, is very important. And that's one thing I think that we have, we finally got this going here now, is we all talk to each other. So I think that's really important.
Tell me more about that. Communication.
Communication's important. And so when Serge has a shipment and they have issues that come up, he reaches out and he asks the questions and he connects. And similar, we do the same thing. So, people are talking to each other about this product development line now. So all the pieces fall together because people are communicating. Communication's important.
Communication, information exchange.
Yeah.
Our customers are reaching back out to us. We have internal expertise across all the different channels, from R&D to environmental to supply chains. You name it, we have industry experts on board who could pick up and provide details of information that our customers, our vendors, our partners are asking for. So I think it's key to have the right knowledge base internally to address any questions, concerns from regulatory, whether it be from environmental. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's really around communication and information. So being able to communicate out, here's what we're doing, here's what we don't know, and we need to go get this information, and then how do we spread that out.
Right.
So I get calls from our vendors every day of, hey, how do I work with Amyris? I want to move product for you. I want to provide materials, and it's really around these metrics of what we've got from a supply chain.
Yeah, we're pretty much in alignment, I think. There's another concept around that where you have people that have a lot of passion, so we have that here, and then you have good alignment, and then you have competent people who are driving the whole thing. So I think we've got all those little kegs working together, and we all talk to each other, so I think that works.
Wow. I think it's really helpful to also look at specific projects that were able to make an impact. And I think both of you have some really good examples of that. And the goal here would be kind of learn about how what the process was for those projects, and a bit about some of the impacts so that others in the industry can learn from it. Serge, I know you've got a really good experience, and I know you worked together in this. Tell me about a project that had that kind of impact, and then a bit about the process that led to it.
Yeah, in my world, there's two different projects. There's an internal cultural shift, and I joined Amyris in 2016, and at that time, we had a S&OP, our supply operation and planning meetings that were held at a quarterly and monthly frequencies. In 2017, January, we implemented a weekly format of that. And talking about the spoke and the wheel itself, the S&OP process really allows us to create almost like a blockchain project or planning approach. So if we're introducing a new molecule or shipment of material from one location, Brazil or Spain or Europe, to the U.S. to do some modifications and kind of the next step in the process. The S&OP really allowed us internally to become more efficient, make the right choices, and really be more, wise around who are we working with in terms of truckers, ports that we want to bring the shipments into to minimize the internal U.S. logistics. And over the years, or over the last couple of years or so, we've cut down significantly, almost 80% of our internal U.S. domestic logistics move because we've made some changes. I credit the S&OP process to helping us become a lot more wiser in our choices and become more aware of areas where we could cut waste, whether it's cost, whether it's sustainable, air emissions, whatever those metrics are. We're able to leverage our S&OP, and our S&OP is built around a 12-month forward-looking forecast that allows Wendy and other teams to help supply chain be more organized in our planning. So in terms of internal, I feel that project alone has helped us become a lot more efficient.
So one of the pillars that CDP recommends as a best practice, it's a fourth pillar, is learning. And it sounds like by speeding up the frequency of these meetings to a weekly meeting, which for many people might seem like, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the learning process also was sped up. Is that about right?
Absolutely. I mean, Amyris is a learning organization. Every day we learn new things. We learn about who we are. We learn about our culture, and we learn about opportunities.
And now I think when we finish a project, we look at it retrospectively and sort of give some deep thought to what lessons have we learned. So that's also been helpful.
And I love that because through that iterative process of reflection, setting of specific targets through initiatives, you really can move the needle. And I know you've had some concrete examples of that, for example, in our storage and distribution of certain products. Love to hear a bit more about that experience and kind of what some of the results were.
So the Flexi Tank.
The Flexi Tank superhero.
The Flexi Tank allowed the supply chain to really condense their routes. So they didn't need the cold storage anymore, correct? So that in itself saves a lot of energy.
Well, maybe we could take a step back. So for somebody who may not be familiar with Flexi Tanks or may not be familiar with what was being shipped and what products we're talking about, give us a bit of background.
Flexi Tanks are big bladders, almost like a balloon type of a package that the wine industry and some of the food industry use today to transport liquids and other raw materials from worldwide using shipping containers. So we wanted to take that application and work with a company that had a global reach and interest and implement a project with them that would allow us to take that bladder Flexi Tank package and be able to allow us to ship our chemicals in a refrigerated container by ocean. What this allowed us to do is simplify our logistics, supply chain, reduce cost, and so forth. To implement that, Wendy and our quality group went through a 2-year project of qualifying and working through with about a dozen different Flexi Tanks on the market. And out of that 12 came one that actually met our requirements from the compatibility of our material and also be able to qualify as a cold shipment storage tank with a company called Maersk, one of the largest ocean carriers in the world. So we partnered up as a partner, as a customer with Maersk and the Flexi Tank supplier EPT, and we were able to help commercialize Maersk and EPT, this first cold shipment Flexi Tank globally for them. What it allowed us to do, cut back on about 60 to 70,000 miles in about a 6-month period. We cut back about $800,000 in just logistic cost, and for the customer itself, it was close to about 80 cents per kilogram in terms of cost of shipping materials to our end customer. So a win-win across the board.
And that does translate into, CO2 equivalents that are saved because of the shortening of the routes.
Yeah, I think what I have is 98 tons of carbon dioxide emission reduction
Right.
just within those 4 or 5 month period when we launched it in
Right.
April 2017 to the end of the year or so. So it was really kind of a clear win-win for Maersk of, hey, we've got a partner, we learned something new. How do we create a global supply chain of distribution of those flexi tanks globally for customers of theirs that ship chemicals using various different shipment methods, and now here's the opportunity for using cold storage, lower cost of operations and so forth.
So Serge, you were talking about the impacts of that project over 2 years, which is pretty incredible. Wendy, what was your experience like as part of that process? Tell me more about how you were involved and kind of what some of the learnings that you had.
I think one of my main concerns with it all was, again, what happens to the flexi tank. So they're single use. So we got involved to try to see what's happening once we're done with that flexi tank. Where does it go? So the company does recycle them. So that part is taken into account. That's one of the main areas we got involved in. The other piece is basic safety. I mean, is this going to be robust enough to transport our materials without huge leaks and causing an environmental problem? So that's one of the main concerns I think that we really had, both recycling of the containers themselves and then also the safety of within transporting the material.
The future of clean is brought to you by Apernova, because we're committed to helping every brand deliver on the values we believe in: safety, performance, sustainability, and transparency. Learn more at apernova.com or find us on social media like LinkedIn and Twitter. So let's shift a little bit to the cosmetics industry. Wendy, I know you also work on environmental safety. You look at some of the metrics of safety across our cosmetic supply chain and products that are delivered. Tell me a bit more about that work and how you evaluate products.
So that comes back to what I was talking about earlier about being on kind of the beginning part. So we're sort of in the beginning and then again at the end. So when you start up a product, you have to understand whether it's safe or not for people to use. So that's where we get involved, and we have a program of testing to make sure that the products that people are using are safe for them to put on their skin. So there's a wide range of things that we look at. Is it compatible with people's skin? Does it cause allergies? Is it toxic, etc.? We look at the ingredients that are in there to make sure the ingredients are safe, that there's no hazardous ingredients going in there, no super toxic things are going in there. So we do a pretty thorough ingredient screen and, very thorough testing to make sure that the products are safe for people to use.
That's really interesting, and a key word pops in my head, and that's of traceability. And that has to do with something that we talk about at the Future of Clean, which is transparency. So almost within transparency, there's traceability. So one component is the sourcing, right? And the other is the composition. I'd love for maybe Serge to start talking about traceability and how you interact with that term and how you think about it. And then Wendy, would love to hear about how you see that as a key component or principle of your evaluations.
Right.
Serge?
Yeah, from a traceability, it's really around being able to have a chain of custody control process from the 6, 7 raw materials or 10, whatever number are fed into our fermenters to manufacture our molecule. So we want to be able to identify who supplied each one of those raw materials that were fed in, which dates, what countries of origin, so forth, and then be able to track from the point of manufacturing of that material outbound to the store shelf. So here in Amyris, we go through a quarterly mock recall program led by our quality group, and we do have an industry requirement that within 4 hours we're able to track back to that raw material and the source, each one of those ingredients. Now our supply chain is complex, as you know. We manufacture products in Spain, we manufacture products in Brazil, we've got about 5 different contract manufacturers globally, so being able to trace and track each one of those requires documentation, internal process of managing data, shipment documents. There's just a lot of details. And I'm happy to say each one of the mock recalls have passed with our industry requirements. So, from a trace and traceability, I, really do feel that we do have a controls around the chain of custody for cosmetics, for our food products, FDA registered materials, human consumption. So we do, spend a lot of our efforts making sure we've got the right tools in place across the board, not only for cosmetics, but for foods and chemicals and so forth. So,
Yeah, I think that's critical to be able to see step by step the process of a product and how it's created.
yeah.
And consumers, of course, are demanding that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so Wendy, I'd love to hear more. What are your perspectives on that?
Well, I think that the Surge pretty much hit the nail on the head there. But we're really concerned in safety with making sure that when people put something on their skin that we understand what's in that thing from point A to point B. So in part, that chain of custody helps with that, because we need to know at the beginning, when they make the ingredients that are going in, what was in those ingredients. So we have to really be able to go all the way back to see if there were anything that's toxic, or even now there's a sensitivity around testing with animals, etc. So we need to make sure that all of our ingredients are good, right? And from a safety perspective, ingrained in safety people is the right to know. So it's really important for people to know what's going on with the products that they're using. And this is big, not only with federal OSHA, but in California in particular. We have a lot of legislation out there that people need to know what's there. There's a lot of things like Prop 65 that's there that mandates that people know if there's a reproductive toxin that's somehow slid into that supply chain, right? So it's important that we understand on a really detailed level what are those ingredients that are coming in the door.
I think that's absolutely critical. And what I love as a concept that you just mentioned is the right to know.
The right to know. Well,
The right to know.
People have a right to know.
Yeah, and our consumers are giving, they want to know, and they want to know at the store shelf. We talked about, there's products out there with QR codes, there's just different ways of getting information, and it'd be great to be in a world once we get to where an individual could get to a store shelf and snap and find out the process, the transparency of, yes, this cosmetic material or product was manufactured using these, chain of
custody,
chain of custody, whether it's manufactured in a Brazilian
Right.
farm, to the fermentation house, to the purification place, the logistics of moving the goods from Brazil to the U.S. So just our folks, our consumers want to know.
So key to
brands.
that is what goes on the label. So that's in part, when we do that analysis on all the ingredients, it's like what is going to have to be on the label.
And when you say label, do you mean of the
Cosmetic
end user product?
Yes, of the products. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's right around transparency.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no, smoke and mirrors here. It's really around transparency. Yes, clean beauty. We're here. Here's why we claim
Right.
clean beauty. Our no compromise background around
Right.
raw materials are sustainably sourced.
Right.
Our farmers have certified Bonsucro certifications. I mean, there's just a lot more, and it's getting more complex in terms of managing all that data. So being part of the supply chain organization here, I find that as a great challenge to have on as an organization, and we're leading the way, working with a number of companies and ensuring that we have the appropriate training internally, and also be able to certify our vendors and suppliers that meet these requirements, whether it's
It
Bonsucro, whether
is
it's
part of our environmental policy that we make sure that our vendors also are thinking like-minded on the whole idea of sustainability. So-
Yeah.
And safety.
And safety.
Let's not forget that.
Sustainability and safety, because they're
Yeah.
all connected.
Everything's connected.
Well, we could keep going all day, and maybe we'll have to have another follow-up session. But this is really, really fascinating. Thank you all both for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome. We're gonna have some resources on our website, thefuturecleanbeauty.com, and each week we'll be publishing new episodes. And so next week you can look for our episode coming up. Thank you all again, and we'll have to have you all come back. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Thanks a lot, Don.
Anytime.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We're here to make clean beauty all of beauty. So make sure to listen to our next episode coming out next week.